Just want to catch up with a few things here. You'll notice in the background I've got my, you never know which way to point, my Pearl drum set. Just bought those. Might recover some of them and sell a few of the others. So be sure you're getting into the assignment folder. We've got our discussion forum. Some very good stuff on the discussion forum. I want to talk about that today. But some concerns. A few people have emailed me saying I just don't have time to watch an entire full-length movie, meaning we have the full-length Man with the Golden Arm movie posted this week. It's not required you watch the entire movie. Be sure you do watch the movie trailer and also the 9-minute segment, but it's not required you watch the entire movie. Of course, please do so if you wish to. But what is more important is to really understand the Hays Code. Be sure you read the article about the Hays Code. This was a censorship board. The movie people were required to submit their movies to the censorship board, and as you have read, Man with the Golden Arm did not receive the approval of the membership board and of the censorship board, excuse me. The movie was released without approval and did okay without that. So this was a very groundbreaking movie that it was released without the board approval. One interesting thing that was not allowed at this time was the showing of miscegenation, a word you might not have heard before. Miscegenation, mixing of races. You could not have a mixed race couple in the movies, according to the censorship board. What a different era we had in the 30s and 40s and 50s. So be sure you really pay attention to the Hays Code. This will be a recurring theme, and our final paper you will have to talk about the Hays Code and how it broke down in the 50s and 60s, which with such movies as Man with the Golden Arm and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, among others. Also the pre-rock greats, Muddy Waters and Ray Charles. Let's talk about Muddy Waters and Ray Charles a little bit, two of my favorites. There are two movies. One is very good, one is acceptable. Ray Charles, the movie Ray with Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx does a fabulous job of portraying the great Ray Charles, blind R&B singer Ray Charles, who really crossed all boundaries, did R&B, did rock, did blues, did country, believe it or not, did gospel. Ray Charles, what a huge giant, that's rather redundant. Jamie Foxx in the movie Ray. Rent that movie this week if you wish. Also the movie Cadillac Records, the story of Muddy Waters and a few others. Somebody mentioned Howlin' Wolf in one of the discussion forums. Howlin' Wolf is also shown in the movie Cadillac Records. A flawed movie, but still a decent movie with Beyonce in it. Get that movie too, Cadillac Records. Be sure you're doing the discussion forum. Remember, we have the initial thread. I hope everyone's already done that, but you still have a couple of responses. Some of you haven't done the responses. Those are due Monday at midnight. Everything gets shut down Monday at midnight, so you have to do the responses by then. And be sure you're thinking about the requirements for the discussion forum. There are some requirements. You have to talk about a video you've watched on YouTube, a cigarette video. Some very interesting ones that we've been talking about is the Oasis cigarette video. If you haven't seen the Oasis cigarette video, you've got to see this one with the couple water skiing, smoking cigarettes. The universal symbol for smoking cigarettes right there. Water skiing and smoking cigarettes, Oasis cigarettes. A lot of people also talked about the doctors prefer a certain cigarette. And another interesting one that I have not seen, somebody mentioned Pall Mall cigarettes, the horse at the horse show, the snob appeal. I love that. So you're smoking your Pall Mall cigarettes at the horse show or at the dog show because it's better than the other cigarettes, makes you higher class, not part of the unwashed bourgeoisie middle class. So be sure you're doing the discussion forum, and so we have two requirements for the discussion forum. Be sure you mention a cigarette ad, as I just said, and also, more importantly, to show that you're reading the Gula book. There's some really good stuff in there. Remember, this is a critical thinking course, so much of this class is critical thinking. Learning to think, learning to take a statement like the one I made and tear it apart. Don't trust it at face value. Tear it apart. And really give me your opinion of what you think of my statement, and also refer to Gula and say, well, hey, Gula says right here, repetition, the bandwagon, everybody's doing it, jump on the band, name calling, glittering generalities. Did I express glittering generalities? the Flintstone ad is terrible. It's a blatant blah blah blah. But then the Denny's ad is so much better because we've advanced so far and we're so wonderful, and Denny's is attacking the fast foods, these big glittering generalities. So you have to say something about Gula and what you read in Gula, and give me an example of how you're tearing my statement apart through some of these Gula references. Plain folk, oh, everybody does it just like us. Snob appeal, we just talked about snob appeal, smoking the cigarettes at the horse show. Statistics without context. And as we move through the class, we're going to talk more about cigarette advertising. Somebody, let me see if I can find who it was. I wrote down a few names here. I want to give credit where credit is due. That because we are going to talk more about cigarette advertising versus alcohol. Damien talked about, well, cigarettes were outlawed. Why haven't we outlawed alcohol? Or advertising, I should say. Cigarette advertising was outlawed. Why haven't we outlawed alcohol advertising? It's certainly just as bad. It's just as damaging. Well, there's a glittering generality, but in some opinions it is. Also, fast foods, McDonald's. Boy, if you ate a big giant grease mac and a huge giant fries and a huge giant high fructose corn syrup 48-ounce Coke every day for lunch, that's going to have definite harmful effects on you. And as we move through the class, as I said, we're going to talk more and more about cigarette advertising and alcohol advertising, and that idea of why was cigarette advertising kind of hit harder and alcohol advertising sometimes got a pass. Some things to think about. Some other things people have talked about. Alexis said, both statements of mine, the Flintstones showed a blatant disregard, and also the Denny's is so much better, getting away from fast food. Both statements use glittering generalities. It was very good. Donna talked about repetition in many of the cigarette ads, that they make your breath fresher, that they're smooth, they're refreshing, smooth, refreshing, over and over. The use of the authority figure, the doctors smoke. What brand do the doctors smoke? Of course you want to smoke the brand the doctors smoke. The horse show centrist. Oh, Michael said, my comment did not show centrist thinking. I really like that, and it didn't. So I'm kind of I'm all over the place on this. Oh, the Flintstones is terrible. It's blatant disregard for blatant. Big word there, blatant. Tanya talked about the doctors, what cigarettes the doctors smoke, as we've said before. So some very good stuff there. Luke talked about, and this has been a recurring theme, this is something very good to think about as we go through this class. We have to put ourselves back in the mindset of the mid-60s. How were cigarettes approached in the mid-60s? How were they looked at? They weren't looked down upon as much as they are today, and Luke really made that point, that TV was new at the time. Think about the movie The Wild One. In the bar scene, the bikers are kind of riding and making fun and joking with the old guy serving up the beers, and they talk about TV, oh that brand new thing. So TV was brand new in 1953, so by the mid-60s it was still a fairly new phenomenon. Not everybody had TVs, so this was a big deal that the Flintstones being on primetime TV, I believe it was the first animated primetime television show. And so two factors to think about. Was this show and was the advertising really targeted towards children, or was it targeted towards adults? And at the time, did we really think of smoking as being this horrible, damaging thing that we do now? And another great comment, Tanya mentioned that her grandmother, when her grandmother was pregnant with her mom, the doctor recommended to her grandmother, well, you should take up smoking because that will help hold your weight down. You're gaining so much weight, it's not healthy for you. You're gaining so much weight during the pregnancy. You should take up smoking during your pregnancy. This is what a doctor told her. So this is the extreme 180-degree opposite of the way we think now, that doctors were actually recommending this because the health effects just were not known. So some good ways to look at things. So be sure you get your responses in on the discussion forum by Monday midnight, and also the quiz. Be sure you take the quiz. There's 20 points each week, and the quiz also due Monday at midnight. So be sure you're emailing me with any questions, and that's probably enough for now. I hope you've enjoyed your Super Bowl Sunday.